Well, the house is officially dried in, and it's time to call in a few more of the subcontractors. In this video, we are going to tackle the MEP, or mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. Mechanical is a pretty broad term, but with this house specifically, we are talking about the HVAC, or the air conditioning and heating. I'm Alicia.
And I'm Bryce.
And we are building a modern house.
We're trying.
Hopefully building a modern house. We want a cool contemporary house and we need a workshop, but we have an impossible budget. So that means we have to get really creative and be prepared to roll up our sleeves and do some of the work ourselves. It'll be hard, but it will be worth it. This video is brought to you by DAP Products, Mr. Cool, and presenting sponsor Simpson Strong-Tie. As you saw in our last video, we finished up framing a while back. Or we thought we were done framing, but then we realized we needed to make a few little small changes to get ready for our MEP contractors to come in. In some places we added blocking, and then in other places we actually had to notch some of the studs to be able to accommodate an electrical box.
So what we're doing is we're putting another block on the side of here to move our electrical switches out a little bit so we have room to case the door, put the trim around the door.
The first trade to come in and do their work was the plumber. The plumber had been to the house before we poured the slab to run all the waste lines and vents. Now his team was connecting onto those waste lines, creating all the plumbing that would run inside the walls. As I've mentioned before in this series, the plumber has so far been the only trade that's come in under budget. So we like him. The plumbers were one of those trades that just wanted to get in and work quickly and weren't really looking for extra help from Bryce and myself. Since we planned to use wall-mounted faucets in the bathroom, they also had to install the rough-in hardware. Normally at this point, they would only install the shower and tub hardware, and the faucets would come later, but because of the special type of faucets that we are using, they have to be installed before drywall. I just gotta say, I was super impressed with the plumbers. They also installed drop-in alcove-style tubs and surrounds in 2 of the bathrooms. There was only 2 of them, and we asked if they would like some help getting that steel tub up the ladder into the 2nd story, but they handled it just fine. To connect the water supply to the main line of the house, the plumbers used PEX flexible pipe. PEX is made from a very strong and durable type of plastic called polyethylene. Building codes vary all around the world, but in our area, PEX is approved to be used in all but very few plumbing applications. We eventually plan on tiling the surrounds around all the tubs in the house, but in the meantime, I was really happy with these drop-in options. With the plumbing in place, next the HVAC guys came in and started to lay out their lines. We tend to use a very different type of HVAC system here in Arizona than a lot of other parts of the world. Due to the incredible heat that we experience here, over half the year we're actually trying to cool the building and keep the heat out instead of most places where they're trying to keep the heat in. We typically only run a heating system a handful of days a year. Because we need heat so infrequently, financially it doesn't make sense to invest in a really efficient heating system. If we were to install something like subfloor radiant heating, it would take years and years and years to be able to recoup that cost. Most houses here in Arizona end up using an air conditioning unit with a forced air heat pump, and that's what we're going to do as well. When we were researching what size of air conditioning unit we would need, we also discovered that we have some other factors in our house that will affect the size. The 19-foot tall walls in the great room, as well as all 48 windows, definitely make it more challenging to heat and cool the space. We also discovered pretty quickly the unique architecture of our house, as well as the fact that it was originally drawn in a cooler climate, presented a lot of challenges. HVAC guys are here, and we're having a little bit of problem figuring out how we're going to run the ducting through this ceiling up here.
Yeah, the problem we're running into is that our trusses are only about 12 to 14 inches tall. up here in the middle.
And they got
but
webbing all
They have
through.
webbing in them, so we don't have any spaces bigger than maybe 6 inches up there.
So there's no way to get the air from one side of the house to the other. And we've got giant glulam beams supporting like every floor. So there's no way to run through the floor of the first story either. Our contractor's being really creative, and we're walking around trying to find where we can maybe run some ducting through walls or closets, things like that.
Yeah.
We have a pretty generously sized utility closet located inside the garage on the south side of the house. It was designed to house the air handler for the air conditioner and furnace. The big issue is, because of the shallow trusses that run above the great room, there was absolutely no way to bring the air from that air handler over to the other side of the house. Our HVAC contractor informed us that the only way to heat and cool the east side of the house was to install a second AC and furnace unit. Since the home wasn't designed to accommodate a second air handler, our only option was to give up a little bit of closet space in the guest bedroom. Once we were able to address the problems on the east side of the house, the HVAC contractors continued running the lines. If you watched episode 1 of this series, you know that our main motivation for buying acreage and building a house was so we could have a large detached workshop. Don't worry, we did not forget about the heating and cooling inside the shop. We always planned on installing air conditioning in the shop, but we figured that might have to be something that we waited for a little bit later down the road when we had some money again. Fortunately, I was able to partner with Mr. Cool, which means we get to install 2 18K 20-SEER mini split units in the shop right now. The DIY Mr. Cool systems are easy to install, and they also come with a heat pump. So that means not only will we have air conditioning in the summer, but we'll also have heat in the winter. We're still waiting for a couple of our trades to finish up before those can get installed, so those will be coming out on our next video. We are having our HVAC guy run all the mechanical himself. He's got a crew, they know what they're doing. Honestly, we would get in the way if we tried to help. But our electrician is willing to work with us to help try to bring the cost of his labor down a little bit.
Yeah, our electrical proposal was a bit more than we had anticipated. So to help offset some of the costs of the electrical, our electrical contractor was generous enough to let us work with him to help us save some money on the project. One of the things he set us up on is hanging the electrical boxes and outlets throughout the house. So we're putting the little blue boxes everywhere on the walls and throughout the house.
It's hard to screw those up.
We'll do our best.
To not screw them up.
He'll have his guys come out and we'll help them pull some of the wire to those boxes.
Sometimes it's really handy just to have an extra set of hands, no pun intended, to be able to help pull the wire through the holes. Bryce and I began installing all the receptacle boxes. That included boxes for outlets, switches, and lights. There are special types of receptacle boxes that work with every type of electrical application. The exterior outlets, for example, have to be installed on top of the OSB exterior sheathing. After installing all the boxes for switches and outlets, next came the really challenging part, determining where we wanted to place all of our lighting. Since almost all of our lighting will be installed in the ceiling, it was easiest to mark the locations where we wanted them on the floor and then use a laser to project the location onto the ceiling above. We decided to install can lighting through most parts of the house, with just a few areas where we would have some chandelier type accent lighting. Altogether, we helped our electrician run 8 different types of wires throughout the house. We were also taught that it's a really great idea to mark the ends of your wires so you know where they're going and coming from. Once all the lines were run, we let the electricians handle all the really important stuff, like hanging the panels and sub-panels and making up all the circuits. We made sure to include a dedicated 200 amp service just for the detached workshop. We should have plenty of power to run large tools like a welder or a dust collection or a table saw. With all the circuits made up, it was then our job to staple and secure all the lines. Code requires that all lines are secured to the framing within 6 inches of a receptacle or anywhere where they might interfere with other surfaces like drywall. Before we could call for inspection, we also needed to make sure that we applied a fire-rated foam sealant to all the penetrations through the fire blocking in the house and workshop. We chose to use DAP Touch and Foam Fire Break in the orange can. It helps to block air infiltration through penetrations in the wall, which reduces flame spreading through the insides of the wall cavity. And the easily identifiable orange color let the building inspector know that we used the correct fire-rated product. Just make sure that you're using the can properly and don't get any on you. Ask me how I know. Well, my hairline's a little higher right here, but not bad considering. We have a few places that the holes through the stud are a little bit close to the edge. That can cause a big problem when you go to screw drywall or anything to the framing. You could accidentally go all the way through this stud into the hole and pierce one of the wires. So to help prevent that, we're adding these little guys, which are, I think they're called screw plates, little pieces of steel that we will mount in front of the holes so that way a nail or a screw can't penetrate it. When we wrote up our budget, we were a little more generous with our plumbing allowance than we needed to be. We had budgeted $20,000 for rough plumbing alone and an additional $8,000 for finish and fixtures. Our bid from the plumber came in just under $13,000, including all the materials for the rough-in and all the labor. We've already paid for all of our fixtures, including sinks, faucets, tubs, shower heads, all that stuff, and it came in around $4,700. That means we have saved over $10,000 on our plumbing from what we originally estimated. That is fantastic. I am very, very happy about that. We will definitely be moving some of that money around to different expenses. As you know, living in Arizona, having a good HVAC system is critical. We had budgeted $10,000 for our entire HVAC system as well as installation. We received multiple bids from different contractors, but we ended up using the company that actually installed the HVAC system in my in-laws' house next door. Not only did we have somebody that could vouch for the quality of their work, but they actually came the closest to our budget as well. The original quote they gave us was for $10,400. So only $400 over our budget, which at this point we were pretty stoked about. A couple weeks later, we got some amazing news from the owner of the company. He was able to negotiate an additional discount from the supplier, bringing the cost of our materials down an additional $1,000. That means our total contract amount was only $9,400. Under budget again. Woohoo! Now, the electrical is where some of the numbers get a little funny. We had originally budgeted for $10,000 for rough electrical and an additional $5,200 for finish, including all the light fixtures. Although we got quotes from multiple electricians, nobody was even close to our budget, and we ultimately decided we'd feel the most comfortable going with a business owned by a family friend. When he gave us his initial bid, it was over $27,000, not including light fixtures. When we found this out, this was shortly after completely blowing the budget on concrete and framing, so we were freaking out, having heart palpitations, completely overwhelmed, and had no idea how we were going to get this electrical done. So as you saw in the video, Bryce and I rolled up our sleeves. We did a lot of the work ourselves, but at this point, we haven't officially been invoiced yet, so we don't exactly know what kind of money we saved. All we know is that our electrical will definitely be less than that original $27,000 bid. Fingers crossed we can afford it. At this point, we've drawn a little over $123,000 from our construction loan. We've also spent around $34,500 out of pocket. In addition to Bryce and I working on the house, we've had several trades come in and we're getting a lot done. In the next couple of videos, we will start to address things like the insulation, the stucco, and the drywall. It's starting to get real. If you aren't already, make sure that you subscribe to the Pneumatic Attic channel so you can follow the entire Building Modern on a Budget series and you don't miss a step of the building process. If you want to see more of our house build series, make sure you check out this playlist. And if you like other DIY ideas, check out this video. Thank you for subscribing and following along, and as always, thanks for watching.